I just heard the President of the United States and the uh, Vice President of the United States sit, wag their fingers at, and threaten and humiliate the president and leader of another country that is at war with the biggest thug bully on the planet. I cannot tell you how shocked I am because I had been leaning toward the idea that maybe Donald Trump wasn't such a bad guy, that some of the people that he picked to reform the situation in the United States were doing a good job and that they would in the future, and that all things were well intended. I cannot tell you, however, how embarrassed I was for my country and my citizens at the infantile behavior, the what we used to call junior high or middle school behavior of both Vice President Vance and President Trump to a man who has to deal with an immense amount of stress every day. Ignorance, insult, arrogance, condescension. It was all there in a 2 or 3 minute tirade by a wealthy, fat, comfortable America going after a desperate country trying to claw back some of the territory that it had lost in the last 3 years and really in the last 11 years, thanks to the mismanagement of both the indecisiveness of Europeans, the foolishness of American presidents, including Obama and Biden, as well as now the infantile nature and egocentric management of Donald Trump. I spent a year in Europe when I was younger and in the 90s and was in Germany. I lived in Germany, and I would say that in general, we have problems with our relationship and our reputation in Europe these days. We didn't after World War II. We helped rebuild the entire subcontinent of Europe, as well as other places all over the world, and had a lot of goodwill. But I think, frankly, we've run out of that now. These two men who I had thought were going to reform everything and had put people in place in the Department of Health and Intelligence and in the Attorney General's office and in the FBI and the Secretary of Defense, that all these positions would be taken up by mature reformers who were going to do their job well. Well, I don't know about that now. I saw a president who was infantile, silly, arrogant. I won't repeat myself. So I have to reevaluate whether or not the United States is going to be the very cause of further fiascos in the world. I won't even mention the treatment of the Gazans, the idea that we can do some cool real estate speculation and have Netanyahu and Trump sitting on the beach sipping daiquiris or whatever they are in Gaza, while the 50,000 people that have been murdered by the Israelis are ignored, but the 2 or 3 murdered Israelis are wept over and celebrated as heroes. Maybe everybody doesn't understand. We now have the internet, we now have YouTube, we now have relatively free and open communication, at least in the West. And critiques such as mine are there and available for all to see, as well as the idiocy, the arrogance, and the jaw-dropping stupidity of our two major national leaders is going to embarrass me for the rest of my brief remaining life. I apologize to the world for this. I don't know what to do about it. I don't understand why with Biden we had a terrible leader. With W we had a terrible leader. With Obama we had a leader who frankly didn't really give a shit. He wanted to talk about sports with men and hang out with his banking and investment friends, and now is a big deal in Hollywood, I guess. And now we've got Donald Trump. We desperately, desperately need mature, effective leadership in the United States because we dispense our, I don't know, I'm at lost for words. We are at the top of the heap in the world. We need to be the people who are sober, intelligent, and masterful in conducting both internal and foreign affairs, and we're not. We are so far from that I would love to have the day back when Sleepy Joe was running the White House, and at least we weren't constantly insulting or abusing the rest of the world. I know that he had to take his talkie pills and his sleepy pills, or his walkie pills, and didn't want to get those mixed up. And it was a shame we didn't have a primary with the Democrats to actually choose a leader rather than assigning Kamala that job, who is completely out of her league intellectually, physiologically, philosophically, in every other way you can imagine. She's out of her league. We need desperately to get decent leaders. I don't know how to do that. So I apologize to the world for our idiocy and our infantile, ridiculous, childish, arrogant, condescending, hubristic approach to world problems. And I apologize to President Zielinski, who is such a great, and I didn't say he's perfect. I don't think he is. He's probably got a lot of flaws, probably got some perversions. Who knows? But compared to our guys, the man was very patient. I would have probably stood up and socked Trump in the face and kicked little chubby J.D. Vance in the head. But I'm a little too old for that, and I'd like to be more mature in my approach to conflict and argumentation. Anyway, that's the way I feel about it. I know nobody cares how I feel about it, but I had to get this out. I have to put this on my YouTube channel, and hopefully we can eventually, if we don't find some decent rulers, we may end up ending the world. I don't know what Europe is going to do. They certainly can't trust the idiots that are in power in my country. They have nowhere else to turn. Maybe they'll finally start making some hard decisions on their own and start spending their own money on stuff like the Donald has warned them they ought to do. But they shouldn't be relying on us until we find a way to get decent leaders. I've said enough for now. I know nobody's going to hear this, but again, I sincerely apologize to the rest of the world for what in the world we are doing. Pray for us, because we need some help.